So here I am with the inimitable Dame Laura Kenny, just the 5 Olympic gold medals, just the 7 world titles, just the 2 Commonwealth titles, just the 14 European titles, etc., etc. Laura, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, you're looking good. You've got your kids here. It's only 3 months ago you gave birth to your second son, but you wouldn't know.
Oh, thanks. Thanks very much. No, yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling a lot better than the last time I saw you, shall we say.
Well, you were slightly bigger, shall we say.
It's massive, yeah. So no, it's been going well so far.
Fantastic. You got on the bike?
I have been on the bike, yeah. I've sort of stuck to the same structure as I did when I gave birth to Albie. So I had 6 to 8 weeks off with Albie, and then I started again, and I've done the same this time, so 6 to 8 weeks, and now I've started again.
Yeah. Well, your dad's loitering somewhere. Which is a convenient segue for me to say, well, how did it all begin for you? Because I think you were born prematurely, weren't you? You had asthma issues as well. And yet, here you are, slip of a girl, smashing it.
Yeah, cycling was never... I think loads of people say to me, was it within your family, like are your parents professional athletes? And like that just wasn't our story at all. My mum chose cycling as a form of losing weight. And one thing basically led to another. And then I came to being, 13, and British Cycling basically scouted me, a bit like obviously they do with football. And then that was it then. I've been a product of the system ever since.
Yeah, who were your sort of early heroes before you realised you were going to be good?
I mean, I would never have said like a cyclist was my hero as such. Because when I first was involved in sport, Dame Kelly Holmes was my hero because I watched the Olympics, obviously. But just because I was cycling didn't make me a fan of it automatically. It was when I kind of got more and more involved with British cycling that I then became a fan of cycling. And then we had Victoria Pendleton. Like, she was, to be honest, at the time, she was really the only female cyclist that we even had that I could idolise.
Yeah, that's right. So, 2008 Beijing wasn't that long ago, but you were still very much a junior. That must have inspired you. By the way, there's a certain Jason Kenny who reared his head at those games, won a gold medal. That must have inspired you because Team GB, Chris Hoy, Bradley Wiggins, Victoria Pendleton, absolutely bossed the velodrome.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, that was the first bit, wasn't it, for British cycling? That was our first Olympics where, well, like you say, we bossed it. We totally dominated it. It was the start of the aerodynamic project, obviously, that British cycling put in place. And that kind of was the starting point, shall we say, of British cycling. Like, we've just got better and better throughout each Olympic cycle, which is a task. Like, because when they did that in Beijing, I actually remember having a conversation with my dad, and my dad was like, "God, they've set the stall pretty high. Like, how are you going to better that?" Like, yeah. I mean, you thought you couldn't have bettered it at the time, but obviously, come London, and they threw in the fact that actually more than one person could compete in the same event. So, like you say, Jace could then compete against her. It made it different. It made it better. And it made more medals available. Yeah. So we did then go on to better it. But yeah, like you say, it did inspire me. And I actually remember reading about Jace in a magazine and him being 20 and me thinking, like that's in 4 years' time, like I'll be 22. But it was funny because it seemed totally out of reach at the time when you're 16 and you're saying, I want to go to a home Olympics. Like it just sounds mad at the time.
Well, 3 years later, you're world champion with the Team Pursuit girls, and in 2012, obviously. Now, people knew who you were in cycling, but people probably outside cycling didn't know much about you. Well, that all changed in 2012. You won the Team Pursuit, 6 races, 6 world records, which is an extraordinary thing to do. And then you also won the Omnium as well. So 2 questions. Number 1, what was it like doing it in London? You know, you're a Hertfordshire girl, aren't you? You're on the edge of London. So it was your Olympics. What was it like? What was the atmosphere like? And presumably everything changed as a result of 2 gold medals.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. Like you say, I mean, where they put the velodrome, we used to spend weekends riding around what used to be called Eastway, which used to be a closed circuit for road bikes. And we used to go down there all the time. It was the first closed circuit that I ever raced on because it was the closest to us. You can get to the Olympic Park by riding half an hour down Lee Valley from our house. And so, like you say, it felt like my Olympics. But then, just because it feels like your Olympics doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go on to win, does it? But then to go on and win 2 gold medals there was just insane. Like, I actually really struggled to describe what it felt like at the time. just like out of this world. Just honestly, it was like I dreamed it and it had happened in front of me. And like weird things had happened. Like I always say about Paul McCartney singing to us in the crowd. Like what? Like how did that happen? You know what I mean? But all my dreams did come true on that day, as cliche as it sounds. And it did change my life. Like there's no taking away from the fact it literally changed my life. Obviously, Jason and I announced that we were together, which sort of threw us into a different kind of. Well, that's what the magazines and the newspapers were after. Whereas in the sporting world, I'd just become an idol, and so it was a weird. Like I felt like I was being pulled from pillar to post, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Like it literally changed my life.
And of course, you mentioned that. Now, you had to tell British Cycling, obviously, prior to the Olympics, and I think they were probably concerned about all the potential noise that would be made as a result of it. You did very, very well to keep that quiet. Slightly blew your cover afterwards because stealing a little kiss of David Beckham sitting in front of you. That kind of gave it away. But I guess for something like that, it could have worked negatively. But also, there are loads of positives about it because nobody understands each other and the needs and the selfishness you need sometimes than somebody who does the same thing as you and does it to the same level as you.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And it's funny because I always say now, like I can't imagine going to Olympic Games without Jason being there. Like you say, it just takes to understand what an athlete puts in, like you've got to be really committed to that relationship because we're selfish people. Like we don't want to do anything. Like we're pretty boring because all we do is that sport and that's pretty much it.
Very single-minded.
Yeah. And you are like, I'll move anything out of my way to try and be successful, you know. And I think if you saw that from not being within the sport, you'd think we were like psychopaths and just kind of really individual people. Whereas obviously once you're in the sport, you really understand it and you're obviously chasing the same thing. So I think, it just worked. I mean, Jason and I are very different, don't get me wrong. We're like yin and yang.
Yeah.
But
well, that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
But I think in terms of sporting personality traits, we both really get it.
Yeah. So 2016, the next Olympics in Rio, totally different set of circumstances because in London, you were a teenager. You may have had expectations, but nobody else particularly did. 2016, you were a champion. You're there to be shot at. Very different set of pressures and challenges.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, 2016 was very different. I put quite a lot of pressure on myself, I'd say. It sounds stupid, right? Because winning 2 Olympic gold medals is insane. And if you'd said to me at the end of my career, you've got 2 gold medals, I'd been chuffed to bits.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because all I ever wanted to be was Olympic champion. But then once you stay in the sport, once I'd committed to carrying on, I was like, well, I want to go on to win more. And by that point, I wanted to prove that I wasn't just a one-hit wonder. Like you say, I was young in London, and it sort of just fell upon me, and everything was fun, and it was almost free. Like it almost happened just because.
It was a free hit.
Yeah, because no one did know who I was, and I kind of got away with it by hiding in the background. So there was no pressure. But come Rio, like you say, everyone was like, oh, well, can she do it again? And then I'm doubting myself the whole time.
Well, that's a bigger challenge as well, isn't it? As you say, sort of, it's one thing winning, which is fantastic. But to back it up, that's the next level, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. And like 4 years is a long time as well, which I think we forget a lot of the time. Like you're asking an athlete to stay at the top of their game for another 4 years. It's actually a really long time. Like we go through so many ups and downs within that cycle. It brought very different challenges. But again, the same thing, by the time I got to the Olympics, I was so used to the pressure being piled on from pretty much everywhere, like newspapers, British Cycling expecting me to win, me expecting myself to win.
Yeah.
But actually, when I got to the games, I was like, oh, it's just another bike race. Like, I can actually just go out there and race my bike, and that's what it felt like.
Yeah. Now, you've got Jason, who you married straight after Rio. He's there as well. He won just the 3 gold medals in Rio. But how does it work where you've got to concentrate on your job, but obviously you're desperate for Jason to do it as well? Now, he did do it, so I guess that helps, doesn't it? But that could be a distraction, I guess, or again, can you use it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was what British Cycling were obviously worried about pre-2012. We were young, and they didn't want the distraction of the outside world. It was bad enough being within British Cycling and people saying, can they do it again? So it was better just to keep it quiet because then there was no eyes on us. So when we went up and was competing, it was just us competing. Whereas obviously in Rio, it was very much everyone was looking at the other one. So whenever Jason was on the track, all eyes were on me, and then vice versa. And it did take a bit of getting used to, I won't lie, but it just sort of comes with it. We always watch our teammates, you know, and whenever someone else is successful within your team, it actually gives you a bit of boost inside.
Sure.
And obviously, when it's your fiance who's doing well in the team, of course it's going to give you a boost.
Yeah.
I mean, I was worried sick, obviously, because in Rio was the Kieran of Jason's, wasn't it? Obviously both have been Kieran's, but the Kieran in Rio was obviously where they kept restarting. The whole time I was just like, oh my goodness, this race needs to just be finished right now, because I was still mid-omnium at the time. But yeah, when they're successful too, you do get a lift from it as well.
Sure. You got married, and you had your first son, Albie, and of course, you know, that's added pressures, added challenges to the outside world. You know, as soon as a sportswoman has a baby, they're semi-written off. Now, I know you don't put yourself up there on a pedestal as a champion for women, but that happened, didn't it? There was question marks, and I can say, and maybe you can agree, it's not well done for having a child and continuing, but just another little message to people that what's the problem? Yes, it adds challenges, but you just got to get on with it.
Like, definitely, yeah. I think, again, I had the mindset of I was prepared to move mountains to make this thing work, and I'd already decided. I remember getting a train journey down to London with Jace, and we just found out I was pregnant, and I said, I'm not stopping, I want to carry on. And I think even for a moment, Jace thought I'd gone round the bend. But then obviously we made it work. I literally moved mountains a lot of the time, and we went to the Olympics and I was successful. And like you say, I mean, for me it was very much almost being able to prove to myself that you could do both, you know. And now all of a sudden other people think that they can also do the same, and that was kind of what it was always about.
Sure. COVID happened, wasn't great for any of us, but actually it did you a bit of a favour, because obviously you had time with your son, and also you were in better shape in 2021 than you were in 2020. So and you won the first ever Madison as well, which people can never take that away from you, and you got your 5th Olympic gold medal. Do records matter to you? Because as you well know, you are now statistically Britain's greatest female Olympian, and I think statistically you are also the greatest Olympic female cyclist in history. Is that pretty good? Sounds pretty good.
I mean, I'll take it, yeah. I mean, records are never something that you chase, and to be honest, I didn't even know what I was chasing in Tokyo. We were just going out there to ride our bikes, but once Katie and I came off of the Madison, it was Monica Greenwood, our coach at the time, who was like, do you realise what you've just done? And I was like, I literally have no idea.
You didn't know?
No, I didn't know that it was like it was a 3 consecutive is what everyone was getting at. I was the first woman to win 3 consecutive gold medals at 3 separate games. And I was just like, oh right, wow. So like it was,
You probably didn't need to know that before, did you?
No, it was after. She told me after.
No, I know, but it's probably just as well you didn't know that. Yeah. Although it's a bit surprising that you didn't. But
well, I mean, I just think because I'm there to win a bike race, I never think about like the after. And she actually said to me then, "I think you'll get knighted." And I remember being like, "No, like be quiet."
Yeah.
And then obviously that came next.
Yeah. Well, let's just. I mean, this is ridiculous, really. You and your husband both got knighted on the same day at Windsor Castle. Together.
Yeah.
That's kind of days out for a married couple. That's not bad, is it?
Well, honestly, it was one of the best days of my life.
I would imagine it probably was,
It really was. I loved every minute of it. I felt like we were getting married all over again. I had the same hair and makeup artist come as well. Like, honestly, it was one of the best days of my life.
It's a bit weird you turn up in your wedding dress, but
yeah,
I guess.
Been weird, wouldn't it? Yeah.
And I've got to ask you, this is not for burglars, by the way, because you'll never find them, but you got 12 Olympic gold medals between you. Now, some people, I bet you don't, but some people, as you walk in, it's sort of like a shrine, and there's sort of a huge cabinet, whatever. When I say 12 Olympic gold medals, I think you've got 42 major championship medals between you. Like, are you tripping up over them at home?
No, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't even be able to tell you where half of them are. I'd like the Olympic ones, they're in a cabinet, and so are the Commonwealth Games ones actually.
Right.
And the World's ones really should be, but they're not. They're sort of like spread all over the place.
Sock drawers?
Yeah, like literally, you could open drawers and you'll find one.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I go through my receipts drawer, and I know for a fact that there's one in the bottom of that.
Is there?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So 2021, Jason, who's got a couple of years on you, okay, he was, I think it's fair to say, reaching the twilight of his career, and he was hanging. By then he was hanging. He'd been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
and a lot of spotlight on him. Everybody had written him off. He'd pretty much written himself off, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Just tell us about how he won his final gold medal, his 7th gold medal.
I mean,
And you're watching all this, obviously.
Yeah, well, obviously I get the whole background story because he said to me in the morning that he didn't even know why I was doing it. And so I was thinking, well, that's him over. And obviously the sprint the day before or 2 days before had gone terribly. And so I think he just thought, well, I'll just go and race and see what happens. And then he got knocked out in the first round, and then he comes back through the rep in typical Jason style.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, well, it's not exactly going very well, is it? Like, if you
So it's like best of the losers, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
Coming in,
yeah.
So on paper, he's got no chance.
Oh, well, everyone thought he had no chance, yeah. And then
including him.
Exactly, yeah. But then before the start of it, he said to me, if he drew one, which you've got to think, right, there's, is there 8 of them? 6 or 8 of them in the keirin. To draw one as well would be pretty, your odds are not really on drawing one here.
No.
And he says to me, if I draw one, I'm going to go for a long one. I'm just going to go. If they leave a big enough gap,
as soon as the keirin bike goes, I'm going to go for it, which nobody really does.
No.
Or they do, and then they get caught.
For 3 laps, because it's a long way now, obviously. Because it used to be 2.5, didn't it? And that was about to say, well, this is 3 laps. And I thought, no chance. Well, he draws one. Like, what are the chances? So then, obviously, he just goes for it the minute the.
And you're watching this.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, what the heck? Like, I didn't think.
Oh, you're thinking this is cycling suicide.
Yeah. Like, there's just no way he's finishing this bike race first.
Yeah.
But then the gap just got bigger and bigger, and then obviously he did.
At some point, you thought, my God, he's going to
do
it.
A half to go, I thought he's going to win this bike race. Yeah.
Unbelievable, and that must have been great for you. Now, 1 year on, it's your turn.
Yeah.
You're hanging. You know, you're in a similar position at the Commonwealth Games, and although every medal counts, and obviously the Olympics are deemed to be more important than the Commonwealths, the Commonwealth gold that you won last year is right up there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because?
Well, I just had an absolute nightmare before it. Like, just a mix of like a commitment issue, training for the sake of training, and obviously my personal life not going the way that I wanted it to go. And there was no taking away from the fact that all I wanted was Monty. And so for me,
your second child.
And we were obviously struggling. And so for me, all it was training for training's sake. But I knew I'd trained, and that's all I kept telling myself. But then I rocked up for the team pursuit, felt terrible, although we got a bronze medal, but the time was rubbish.
Yeah.
And then rocked up for the points race. I came second to last. I didn't score a single point. And then obviously I've got the scratch race to go. And after the points race, I said to my mum, I don't want to do this. I do not want to get on that bike tomorrow and race this bike, like it's demoralising. And she said to me, you need to just go out there and race it like it's your last bike race. Like, even if it is your last bike race, or it isn't, just go out there.
But you thought it probably was your last bike race?
At the time, yeah. So she was just like, go out there and just let it be, and it is what it is. And then it wasn't until I got on the start line, and the whole time I'm warming up and I'm like, I do not want to be here. Like, there was nothing within that velodrome, and it was in London. Like, it should have brought me back to
2012.
Yeah, and it just didn't. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. And then I was on the start line, and some complete random, who I ended up randomly meeting at another appearance later on, said to me, you can do this, Laura. And it was like something clicked in my head, and I was just like, yeah, I can. Like,
it's funny that he probably, I don't know how, but he probably maybe saw. Why would you say that? Unless you're thinking.
Yeah, what's wrong with her? Because I hadn't said anything before that. Like, it wasn't like I'd done the points race and come off, because I did an interview afterwards that so many people commented on. But never the before. I'd never done it before. And
but that little comment flicked the switch.
Yeah, and then I thought, well, of course I can do it. I've trained really hard, and I think I'm the quickest person in this bike race.
Yeah.
Like, I was pretty certain that I was.
Yeah.
But obviously had to piece together. And then the race panned out exactly how I wanted it to.
Yeah, fantastic. So looking ahead, you've got one child, Albie, you've now got Monty. You'll be written off even more now. You're not getting any younger. I mean, you're an old lady. We're getting your pension soon.
I know.
So probably, I think I've even read somewhere somebody saying, "Oh, it's going to be very difficult for Laura for next year." But as you well know, Olympics are 9 months away, and you're going to go for it.
I mean, I think never say never, you know. And if I don't try, I'll never know what was possible or isn't possible.
Yeah, better to try and not succeed than never try.
That's what I think.
That's failure, really, isn't it?
Of course it is.
Not going for something.
Yeah, because I'll never know.
I don't think it's going to be a legacy, win or lose, is it? You've done quite well for you.
Yeah, and like I say, I can sit here and pat myself on the back. I'd be quite happy.
Yeah.
if I don't win another one, I'm quite happy.
What are the standout moments for you over the years? I was thinking as well. You were the flag bearer, weren't you, at the closing ceremony in 2021? Not many people get to do that. That must have been pretty special.
Yeah, although it was a bit weird there because obviously there wasn't a crowd, was there?
Oh, that's true. You were waving the flag to nobody.
To no one, literally no one.
Oh, you have to do it again in Paris then.
Maybe, yeah. I've got to get selected first.
Top 2, top 3 stand-up moments?
The team pursuit in London 2012.
Yeah.
And it's really sad that then it's not even my career because it was Jason's Kieran in Rio and then Jason's Kieran in Tokyo.
No, not you're married to the guy.
Just because of how it made me feel. Like, it just felt like we succeeded together. Like, lots of people, I think, thought, even when we first got together, they're mad, like, this is never going to work.
Yeah.
And then we obviously carried on throughout all our Olympic cycles. And I just felt like we succeeded as a family. Because there was lots of things along the way that people were like, what? Like, when we got the dogs.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, well, that's never going to happen because how are you going to walk dogs because you're bike riders?
Yeah.
And then we went to win in Rio.
Never mind the 3 alpacas.
Exactly, although they've come afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to walk those, do you?
No, well, I do walk them. Yeah. You don't have
on a lead?
Yeah. Just put a
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see. I would love to see that. Randomly walk along. You imagine the double takes people
loads
do.
Of people do, yeah.
Like that. And they sort of look at what they're drinking and go, that was a rougher night than I thought last night. I've just seen Dame Laura Kenny walking an alpaca. I'd love to see that. You must send me a film of that. I want somebody to film that and send that to me. Okay, Laura, well listen, very best of luck. Thanks for spending some time with us. And as always, we wish you all the best. And just keep doing what you do.